So welcome, Sreeni sir. So Sreeni brings close to 3 decades of experience across HR, performance, management, and organization development. Sreeni sir has held a lot of many leadership roles across different organizations, such as he was vice president and head of people development at Muthoot FinCorp, where he worked in building large-scale people and performance systems there. And earlier at PNB MetLife, where he led talent management, learning, and performance management and an associate director HR. Today, through his consulting and advisory work of Mind Architects, and as a psychologist and behavior analyst, he has been closely involved with driving organizational effectiveness and performance transformation. Right? What stands out in my experience? What stands out in the work is the focus on how systems and behavior come together to drive execution, and that's where Sreeni sir experience and play comes there. So welcome, Sreeni sir. Thank you so much for your time for today. Thank you. And I'm sure listeners going to have get a lot of experience from your insights today. Secondly, Saurabh, sir, thank you so much again. Let me introduce Saurabh. Yeah. Saurabh brings over 25 years of experience in retail and QSR. With deep ownership and business performance expansions and store executions, on-ground execution. He has led many senior regional and national business roles in organizations like Bharti Airtel, Retail Cash and Carry, Slay Coffee, Philips India, Spencer's Retail, and so on. Huge experience there. He was also an instrumental in India's rollout of Coffee Island, his expansion and profitability of 24/7, and India entry and expansion journey of Walmart. Right, that's a great experience there. So he brings in a very, very strong on-ground perspective of what it takes to drive execution and profitability at a scale. Welcome, Saurabh sir, again, and thank you so much for your time. And I'm sure we are going to gain a lot of insights from today's discussion with you and Sreeni sir. So again, thank you for your time there. Let me dwell down to the topic, right, for what we are today speaking on. So today we will be focusing on industry retail more and the challenges of translating targets into executions, on-ground executions. So I had a very simple question in mind for everyone who are listeners and for you too also. We've seen in retail, we spend a lot of, and any organization probably, I'm not specific to retail there, we spend a lot of time in getting annual targets right? There's a lot of effort that goes into planning, forecasting, breaking down the numbers across regions and stores. But if we are to be very, very honest, the real struggle is not setting up the targets, right? It's making sure that these targets actually translate on what happens inside a store on a very and somewhere between the annual plan and daily execution, things starts to lose its clarity. And that's what my experience in talking to many HR heads and other companies also. And store teams becomes busy. Managers started busy in tracking numbers. Reviews keeps on happening on an every weekly or stand-ups on a weekly basis and reviews on a monthly basis. But the link between what was planned to what actually got executed or getting executed on the ground often starts to break or becomes weak. And that's what I think we'll plan for today's discussion, right? Anything you want to add? Otherwise, I'll start. I have a huge lot of question sets and I will start asking you both. Anything you want to add, Sreeni sir? Saurabh, you want to add anything?
No, I think that's a great topic and it's relevant to discuss. Let's go ahead.
Perfect. So, Saurabh, let me start with you, right? From your experience in managing large retail operations, and what do annual targets often fail to translate into consistent daily execution at store level?
See, the single biggest failure I would say in situation like this is that people identify the targets, be it a sales target, rupee gross margin target, gross margin percentage target, cost target, n number of targets, but organizations really do not spend time in making the nice construct of that target. Target is just a number where the construct has to be understood. The construct has to be built layer by layer. That's what leads you to that number. And that's where the single biggest failure happens. Organizations spell out a target that will manage the cost in rupees X, deliver sales Y at a margin of T percentage, and hence will grow at X percentage over last year. But this is just the end output. The construct is never dwelled upon in detail. And that's the point of either breakup or a successful transition into the next financial year. Any successful organization, I would say not just retail, any organization, if they spend organizational level time and detailing in the construct of each of these targets, then that's the first line of course correction. And then for each construct, there has to be a set of actions, activities, and routines which will lead you to deliver those numbers. Unfortunately, in many organizations, in the haste of time and in the urge of delivering result, the talk is only on the output matrix. There is no discussion or even identification of the input matrix, which is the layer of each construct, and what action and activities go in supporting that output. And that is where I feel the line of success or failure gets drawn.
Okay, great. Let me follow this with your inputs, what you've given into a question, and say, where do we typically go wrong? Is it how the targets are being defined or how they are being broken down to a store level? Where does the disconnect happens?
Give you an example to explain that. Targets are defined. Let's say there is a target to say that attrition has to be reduced from, let's say, 63% to 52%. 11 basis point reduction in attrition has to happen. And that target gets rolled out. But where is the construct breakup of this target? That how will you reduce attrition? So now there are multiple activities which go into reducing an attrition as an example. So you have to spend some time, effort, energy in drafting a learning and development program. The learning and development program topic should be linked to your KPIs. Then there has to be internal growth and promotion of employees, and that journey has to be met by the HR team. Then there has to be internal certification, which has to be done jointly by the business team and the HR together, so that people also learn holistically and grow holistically. And then for the front-end sales team, which forms a large part of the pyramid, there has to be a small sales or KPI-driven reward and recognition, which should happen on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Now, all these things cumulatively give you the end output that your attrition will reduce from your current, let's say, 63% to a targeted to 52%. Okay. Now, organizations define the target, but they never spend in making the construct and the action, behavior, or routines which go in enabling those actions. That's where the whole miss happens.
Correct is that.
So HR would definitely do some training and development program, and they will definitely do some reward and recognition program as a part of their mandate. But that doesn't link up with the other objectives, and hence the whole pyramid falls down.
Right. So Sreeni sir, let me bring you here, right, with a simple question for you. If you look at this from a design and systems perspective, why does this gap happen so consistently across organizations? So we've seen this question, challenge across organization when we are discussing with CHROs, and in your case, you have been experienced yourself and party to yourself. So why does this gap happen and so consistently across organizations?
So I'm just continuing from where Saurabh has mentioned about the challenges and the concern that we're facing. Many times, this goal setting exercise is considered as some of the aspirations of the top management. Somehow, we are not able to translate that to a meaningful outcomes for the employees at the stores level. How is actually translating to their day-to-day responsibilities, how it is impacting their day-to-day, or how it is impacting their career. I think that's not getting translated very effectively till the last mile. So many times, whenever a goal setting has been done, it's considered as, okay, yeah, these are the goals of the organization. Now it is just my responsibility to make that happen. And the mindset that they carry, I'm talking from a psychological behavioral aspect, the mindset that people carry is that these are the goals of my leadership and it is being imposed on me. And it is my responsibility to achieve these numbers for the leadership. Just think about it. They are thinking that I am achieving these numbers or I am doing whatever that I'm supposed to do. It is for the leadership to achieve those numbers. That's the way how people see. And when people look at the goal setting from that perspective, I think the accountability is going to be quite low. The personal responsibility is going to be very low. The way how they even look at even the goal setting is going to be in a completely different perspective. So I think that's the gap that we need to fill in.
Right. We're very interestingly where you say this is the goal I need to achieve for my leadership, right? It's not my goal I need to achieve for my manager or for my leadership. Very, very interesting to this. So Saurabh sir, let me build on this, right? If you flip this, right, to some extent, and what does an effective goal setting in retail actually look like?
See, I will draw upon what Sreeni sir just now mentioned, that for any effective goal setting, goal belongs to everyone, from the top to the bottommost. Fortunately, when a goal is trickled down at each department and each layer level, people start diluting the relevance of certain goals for themselves. So for example, a finance team would say, well, I am managing the finance. I've got nothing to do with the sales. Sales is the function of the front end team. The people function will say, well, my job is to give you people. I am responsible for all people gamut. I've got nothing to do with sales or profits. Whereas the reality is that every goal belongs to everyone. The weightage of goals will definitely vary. If I'm an operator, my sales weightage will be much higher than the sales weightage of a finance person or an HR person or an IT person, but everybody has an interlinking to each other. Therefore, an effective goal setting definitely calls for a balanced scorecard approach, wherein share of financial objective as well as the share of non-financial activities and confirmations has to be carefully balanced. I have seen organizations which use balanced scorecard. They are too prone to allocating a very high share of weightage to the financial objectives. When you do that, you are effectively again chasing a number without paying relevant attention or interest to the actions, activities, routines which leads you to that. So the input matrix has to be given far more relevance in your balanced scorecard so that the output matrix is achieved through a method of design and not by a method of default.
Interesting. Great. So Sreeni, let me move on to you. Let's talk about alignment. Now, how can organizations improve goal cascading and alignment across the retail hierarchies? How do they can work more better in that? What goes wrong and what better they can do? Yeah.
Sreeni sir, you are not audible, I guess.
I think you are on mute. Can you check?
Hope I'm audible now.
Yeah.
Yes,
right.
You are.
Thank you. Yeah, very, very pertinent question. As Mr. Saurabh was mentioning about the balanced scorecard, as we all know that there are different models in which the goal setting can be done, and then of course further cascade down till the last mile employee. But many times what happens is that when a goal setting happens or goal cascade, I don't want to call cascading of goals, because there's a problem when you start cascading the goals. There should be a collective responsibility at the store level as well. As I mentioned before, in case if it just cascade down from the top to bottom, what happened is that it is considered as, okay, yes, the goals have been cascaded to us. But is there a possibility to make that exercise more collaborative, more inclusive, or more participative? I understand that at an organization level, each and every organization have a certain goals. And then of course, if they have multiple stores across the country, then they will see, okay, how each store can contribute to that particular overall outcome that they look at from an organization. But still, how can we involve, how can we make that as a participative exercise so that it will not be considered as a goal cascading? Otherwise, what happened, the question that you asked, goal cascade in retail, from my experience, what I have seen is that looks good on paper, but weakens in execution. When it comes to execution, it's very weak. One of the probable reason it could be because the goals move down the hierarchy. When it goes down, they tend to lose the context, the clarity, and of course the connection as well. People are not able to relate to that one and see that, yes, why this particular goal? What is the reason? Why is it so? How it is connecting with the overall organization objectives. I think that's missing. So at the top, of course, goals are very strategic, but by the time that they reach the store floor, they often become just numbers without any clear why, without any how. And I think that's where the alignment also breaks. So we need to introspect into this one and see that, yes, how this is being passed on till the last mile.
When you're saying collaboration, right? Collaborative goals, right? Making everyone involved in, creation of these goals. Maybe it's a sales number, maybe it's any other KPIs, KRAs or goals of the organization or region. Is it that the goals is cascade? As I said, goals happen on the top and then goes to the last store level, and more collaboration is to explain them why this has been done, or also take inputs from them on a store level, on a regional level, and say, hey, this is what we are thinking. What do you on ground think about these kind of goals and whether it is executable?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, definitely the high level goal setting has been done at the organization level, and that will get cascaded down. Even though I had mentioned, yes, I don't prefer the word cascade, but then yes, at a store level, whatever is the goal, it will have to be shared with them. But when you share, if possible, even before the goal setting, in many organizations, they do that process as well. There is a collective ownership in terms of the goal setting. They make the store level people also participate, at least at a store level, what could be the target considering the previous achievement, and then considering the overall goals of the organization, what needs to be done. So that's one way of making it participating. The second one is that fine, the goals have been set, but at least before sharing that goals with the people, let's make it participative and then take inputs from people and see, okay, yes, these are, otherwise what happens is that it becomes just numbers for them. Yes, I need to achieve this. But in case if you start asking, okay, yes, in case if we need to achieve this, what more to be done, what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, when you start asking these kind of questions, that's the time that they feel, okay, yes, I'm also participating in this exercise. I'm also collaborating in this exercise. There is a more sense of ownership and personal responsibility. I think that's very important.
And I think just from my experience, when I was speaking to a few people about 3-4 months back, one regional manager I was talking about, and he's saying, one of the goals we kept, which was pushed from the top to us, that we need to increase the market share by 10% this year, right? And he gave a very funny explanation to me and said, hey, we are already at 70% today. And there are 6-7 competitions in the market. We are already doing 70%. How can somebody think about saying, hey, put more 10% and get that 10% from them? 1%, 2% to about 4%, we still understand from a ground level. But saying that increase it to 10% in 1 year, and when there is a 6 people competition happening, and they only own about 30% of the business, and 70% of the business we are doing it from the market. So it's like an impossible for us to do. We are not able to sink in those numbers today. That yes, how will we achieve those 10% more market share? So that's where we both of you right, where is how the on ground people are also involved, collaborative to set up the goals or KPIs and KRs. Then right.
That's a very fair example, because the intuitive habit of building a cushion at every level is something which is the biggest derailment factor for any goal setting exercise. So if I'm the person at the top, if I have to deliver, let's say 250 crores, I will cascade 260 crores. So somebody will add another 5-10 crores. So by the time the elephant reaches the bottom ground level where the war has to happen, it's a mammoth target. That is something which one should never do. The second thing which Sreeni sir mentioned, that goal setting is the final output. There is a mammoth exercise involving the grassroots level people and people at all levels, which should be done. Is that, okay, what you did is what you did. Now project what you are going to do in the next year, and what are the things which will enable you to do it, and what are the help or input you need from the layer above you. That is how people get involved. So when you get the number from the grassroots level up, and the organization culture is built around that, then it will not be a surprise that the cumulative number which gets built up is very close or very reasonably close to what you are supposed to deliver. And that's a stretch, then you build on top. The second thing is that the goals have to be very transparently shared. Unfortunately, in many organizations in India, I've seen that organizations are very suspicious in sharing fundamental numbers to people below. If you do not mentally enable them to learn, they will never get connected to your objectives. Yes. Transparency of data, availability of data and information should be done with a free hand, and not with the caveat that, oh, my data will go to the competition. Your data is anyways there in the competition. The vendors are common. If I have to know how much is the sales of HUL, Reckitt or ITC happening at a certain retailer, I only have to pick up my phone and talk to a national key account manager and ask him, boss, mera dhanda ye ho raha hai. How much have you built to them this month? I will know that data. So why are you trying to protect that data and thereby mentally disabling your team to think and get connected with the facts and figures? So the numbers have to be translated down, shared with everyone. Goal setting is a bottom-up activity. As I mentioned, then the realistic and actual numbers are very close to each other. And then the parameters of goal setting activity has to be common across everyone in the organization. The weightages can change. So if I'm, let's say, the MD and CEO, for me, the weightage will be XY. For somebody who is a level below, a sales weightage might change and other enablement weightage may go up. That is how it goes. And there should be zero secrecy around any numbers. Otherwise, people don't mentally connect. And I'll give you a classic example. The front-end people, and Sreeni sir will agree from his own experience, the front-end people who are the largest chunk of any organization, for them, the goal-setting numbers of sales are very simply defined in a very transactional manner. For example, their goal would be to sell, let's say, 4 cases of or 4 pallets of cold drink per person per day. Whereas that 4 into the number of employees working multiplied by the number of outlet translates to, let's say, certain number of soft drink being sold in a certain week, certain day, certain month. So for each level, the verbatim of that goal is different, whereas the end objective is same. That's how people talk. At a strategic level, it's rupee value. At a grassroots level, it's numbers.
I just would like to add one point here. To me, I think cascade without context, without clarity, without that collaboration, it leads to compliance, because when it is being shared from the manager, of course, the people feel, okay, yes, I need to be compliant, but there may not be any commitment. So in case if we want to bring that commitment element also to build within this organization, within the system, within the culture, I think whatever that we spoke about earlier will have to be built into this entire goal setting process.
Perfect. Yeah. So this brings to me the other question. Probably this has been already in some part been answered, Saurabh, to you. And because you have so much of experience in execution on ground itself, so how do you build a real accountability and ownership at the store level? Because if the ownership is there at the store level, obviously, just keeps on going up to the leadership level, right? And that's where it's very important.
At a store level, the more you can simplify their life in terms of understanding and execution, the more they are happy to marry with your goals. So at a store level, I have never inhibited in sharing any data or information with them. So be it the store manager, area manager, supervisor, up till the associate level, in the daily briefings, the numbers are shared with them. They are explained the numbers so that they can understand ki chal kya raha hai, ho kya raha hai, right? The second thing is that in the goal setting exercise, we also share with each layer at the store level, if you achieve this number in your balance scorecard, this is the likelihood bracket of increment or percentage you will get, and this is the likelihood percentage or payout of your variable pay which will happen. So then I'm also attaching what do they get in doing what we ask them to do. Now these things are further broken down for them in terms of routines, actions, and activities which they have to do, because for them digesting a big number is always a challenge, and I don't want them to digest that number. I only want them to digest the set of activities they have to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And if they do those activities, everything should be great. So for example, I'll give a very simple example to make you understand or make the audience understand. Leakage control program is a very important activity because it automatically adds to the rupee gross margin. Let's say the leakage control activity has a target that will reduce leakages by 5%. Now for a store associate, it's a very big number. One leakage point is reducing the expiries and damages. Now, if the store associate has been conveyed and made him or her understand that you are responsible for 20 days, in these 20 days, the product which are lying have a minimum shelf life of 6 months and maximum of 18 months, which means in a month, you have to do detailed expiry check of 1 bay per day. So in 30 days time period, he is able to complete the expiry check of 1 bay each day. And thereby he or she is able to pull out the near expiry product, which we are able to sell through our liquidation program. So his mammoth activity of doing expiry check of 20-day bays gets broken to 1 bay per day. End outcome is that he is able to take out the near expiry product, which I'm able to sell through my liquidation. And I'm able to achieve my expiry related metrics in a very efficient, smooth manner. And everybody wins in the whole process. So if you are able to cascade this on a daily, weekly, monthly basis as routines activities, your goals get tied mentally between employees and everyone else. And then in every briefing, the numbers are also shared, because when you start sharing the numbers freely with people, making them understand, in a 10-15 day time period, you will notice they start asking questions, which means they are now able to mentally comprehend. And this also aids them to learn and grow and use their mind further. So that is how I have done, and I've seen it work very smoothly. It's the first 15 days hurdle where they gradually start grasping the numbers. By the time it is the 7th day, 7-10% people start asking questions. By the time it is the 15th day, people are actually scribbling and asking and participating.
So one question comes in my mind, Saurabh sir, is how do the managers start, what managers at a store level, right, or a regional level should start doing some differently to build this ownership in their team? Because at the end of the day, we are seeing the managers control the business, right? The regional managers or the store managers are actually the front people who's controlling the entire business on ground. So what they should start doing differently, bring ownership to the entire team there.
See, managers also are human beings like associates. So if they see a value and benefit in doing those set of activities, he or she will be completely committed to the cause and purpose. Secondly, the manager also has a view and vision that one day he or she has to become an area manager and so on and so forth. So when you enable people, they also get motivated to work for that cause and go up. But functionally speaking, the most important thing which a manager should do differently is he or she should be guided and hand-holded to do a very structured and detailed team briefing as per the shift and routines of the store. And that is the single biggest game changer which happens. All successful stores have managers who prepare very well for their team briefings, and team briefings happen very much in detail and with rigor and discipline. And second thing the effective managers do is they do a very thorough and detailed floor walk with the P&L, with the financials of their business, because when they walk meter by meter, shelf by shelf, aisle by aisle, they are able to correlate the numbers with what they see on the shelf and how they see the consumers. So these two things are the real game changer on the ground, irrespective of the shape, size, or assortment of the store.
Sreeni, you want to add anything on terms of manager from a psychology front and for your experience there? You want to add any points to it?
I think his network has paused. I guess so.
I think it's
Am I audible now? Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible now.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So I completely resonate with what Mr. Saurabh was mentioning. During my experience with some of the retail organizations and while having conversation with some of the leaders from the retail industry, what I could understand is that one of the most important facts that many people are mentioning about why a store is performing good, one of the most important factors is the role of a manager. The role of a manager is very, very critical when it comes to, of course, for any organization for that matter, but when it comes to retail, it's I think, very, very critical. Because otherwise, as we discussed before, the goal setting or the goals which is being cascaded down is going to be just numbers. But the role of the manager is to sit with them, make them understand, and then translate that goals into, I think, daily actionables. I think that's the most important responsibility of the manager.
I would also add another thing to this context, which is very, very important, that as a manager, we should be 100% predictable in the sense that when I go to a territory, I go to a region, or I go to a store, the team should know for sure that these are the 20 things Saurabh is going to ask for and 30 things he's going to look for, so that there are no surprises. Managers who are not predictable, who always throw a surprise in their visit, who always throw a surprise in their reviews, often and always end up building a team who are busy covering their contingency, busy covering their back, rather than setting into a routine and driving a productive business. The manager definitely feels that he or she has shaken up the world and everybody's on the toes. But the idea of a business is not to put people on the toes, but to put people in a routine and discipline, because retail is all about routine and discipline. If they do the routines and discipline, that will link to some other activity, that will link to some certain KPI, that will translate into some number on the P&L. So please be always 100% predictable. You may throw a surprise once in a while as per the new situation, but if you are a manager who is always being non-predictable and throwing a surprise in every visit, then you are creating a demon image, and demons never create value. They only create havoc. Be predictable, and then you link up people with everything else which I and Sreeni sir have spoken. It builds a good team and goal setting.
Two important words: discipline and predictability on your work, right? Very importantly, their discipline work, right? So Sreeni sir, let me come to you with my another question which I had in my mind. Where does performance culture come to this? So what role does performance culture play in an entire execution in a retail industry?
Yeah, very, very important question, and one of my favorite. The reason, because to me, culture is what happens between to perform and review, or from goal setting till the review. So that's what culture is all about. So once you set the goal and till whatever happens in between the goal setting and the performance review, that's what I call as the performance culture. So a lot to be done to build that culture. So performance culture is actually the invisible engine behind a retail execution, or any organization for execution, I think that's the invisible engine. So you can have the best goals and the system, but if the culture doesn't support, I think execution will always fall short. So that's why goal setting alone is never enough. Goals create direction, but I think the culture drives that behavior. I also would like to add one element here. Few organizations may follow the KRA KPI concept. Few organizations may use the balanced scorecard. Few organizations may have the OKR concept. To me, I think even the simple framework of OKR is also not enough when it comes to retail organization, because OKR speaks about, okay, what are the objectives? And yes, what are the key results within that objectives? But in order to achieve, it speaks about what needs to be done, why it needs to be done. That's it. Why it needs to be done is also not being shared many times with the people. That's also very important. They need to understand why they need to do. That's very important. But many times the goal setting or the responsibilities which has been shared with the team is more of what needs to be done. So there could be one more element which should be added in the goal setting exercise itself, is how it needs to be done, what all to be done to achieve that key result. I think that's very important. So when you do the goal setting, that's the cultural aspect. There comes the cultural aspect. It is a responsibility of the manager to spend time with the people to make them understand, fine, in case if these are the key results, how we need to achieve this. What are the different things to be done to help us achieve that one? That's the kind of discussion, that's the kind of detailing that each and every manager will have to go through so that they equip the team member. My suggestion is that don't stop there. Fine, what all things to be done or how to achieve. Plan A and plan B also will have to be there. So to me, goal setting is not a one-time exercise. It is a continuous exercise. Every day they will have to review, because in the retail environment, it is a very, very complex, it is a very volatile environment. They will have to review that at every day, every week. And then of course, whatever changes to be done, they will have to do. So to me, culture building means behaviors. What are the behaviors that they need to inculcate within the team to achieve that one? It is a responsibility of the manager to have a deep look into that one and build those behaviors or build those habits that forms the performance culture. That's how we can build an ownership-driven performance culture in the organization. So that's my take on the question that you asked.
I believe that's a time-taking activity or time-taking, because to build an entire performance culture, and if we are not there till now, we need to give some time to the entire organization to come to that level, right? Where everybody's talking about performance, where everybody's thinking that this is the most important aspect of what we are trying to do, and as well as ownership on yourself, right? Till the time the end person sitting out in one of the retail stores in one of the cities somewhere do not take ownership there of his performance, the company together does not grow.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
I think ownership is also one of the biggest
Absolutely
to use, right? But am I taking ownership of what I have agreed to do with my manager, with my company itself?
So it does take some time for that performance culture to build up. Initially, there will be some roadblocks. There would be some emotional roadblocks, functional roadblocks. People will turn up for meetings but will not have the relevant data and information in their hands, because they also need some time to mature up to that level. But yes, a sales culture, a performance culture, a target-oriented culture takes definitely some time to get built up. And in my experience, if it gets into the right shape in 5-6 months' time, it's an accelerated journey towards it. But sometimes organizations end up taking even 1.5-2 years to reach that level.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a next part, let me bring you both together on this, and I want to ask this to both of you, sir. How should an organization today review their entire goals, and how they should track it effectively? Should they use a technology? What's the best way to track and let people also know that where they are as of today? What's the best way in your experience of what you would have implemented in your different roles? So both of you, Saurabh, if you want to start there, and then Sreeni can take it from there.
Sure, thanks. See, performance is both individual as well as relative for anyone. I mean, for me, if I have n number of things to deliver, that is my individual KRA, but I will be able to deliver subject to ABCDE things happening around me. So it's always relative. So any review needs a far more detailed preparation than actually translating a target, because you have to split layer by layer to understand at which layer the deformity in the process started and what caused that deformity, so that you are able to pinpoint precisely over there and do a necessary course correction. So as far as reviews are concerned, definitely technology plays a very great role today, and organizations must use technology at least in the form of generating a easy to read and grasp MIS, where MIS shows what your target was, what you performed, how is it better or worse than the previous comparable time period, and some color coding, etc., so that a complex MIS can be quickly grasped in a flash of a few seconds. And then the second thing, as I mentioned, data secrecy should not be maintained. These MISs should flow down to each respective level so that people see what they are doing. And I would also say that we should go a step ahead in making people see what others are doing as their counterparts in the ecosystem. Otherwise, people only share South ka data South ke saath, North ka data North ke saath. Let a person sitting in South see what people in North are doing in vis-a-vis. Then the third thing which I feel should be done is that ultimately a business is for consumers. Always map the consumer's journey touch point for your organization. And for each touch point the consumer is having, scribble or identify what do you want the consumer to experience over there. And for delivering that experience, what are the actions, activities you need to do for each touch point? Who are the departments accountable for it? Who are the individuals accounted for it? That is how you translate everything effectively from both the P&L angle as well as the consumer's angle. So this needs to be done. And when this is done, then the performance review and appraisal is done in a very holistic manner, that what happened or what didn't happen, and hence the result is this vis-a-vis this. And then it leads to a course correction on an ongoing basis. Otherwise, it is just a number being hammered and, people just listen and move on.
Sreeni, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Navjit. So your question was, how can we review and track the goals more effectively, right? Yeah. So to me, I think if performance management feels like a grind to people, it's usually because it's treated as a scorecard instead of a game. But nowadays, just imagine the current generation. They are so much interested in playing a game, and they completely engross into the game, and they don't even realize that how much time they're spending in that game. So just imagine, in case if you can translate this scorecard into a game that people want to play, I think there is going to be more interest, especially in retail. The targets are not going to be going away. It's a daily exercise. So the shift is less about removing the pressure and more about changing the experience around it. So how can we bring a better experience when it comes to performance management? It should not be just a grinding exercise where the conversations or the reviews happening just on, okay, how much you've achieved against the numbers. But in case if we can translate that to a game kind of stuff, just one example, start reframing the targets from maybe numbers to hit or the pending numbers into wins to unlock. Just imagine a game. Game has multiple levels. Even though the target is going to be achieved only at the end, there are multiple levels before we end the game. So whenever we unlock each level, there is a some kind of happiness, there is some kind of joy coming into me, and then it'll give that energy to play and then move forward. I think that's the kind of experience that managers also will have to play here. Think about, okay, what are the different ways and means in which this can be more interesting. The performance management need not to be just a grinding exercise. So build momentum, not just measurement, focus on execution of basics, not just on the process. Many a times the focus is on the process. And you asked about a question that how can technology also facilitate this? Of course, there are a lot of tools. Let me talk about the tools that I have been using while I was working with some of the large corporates. Many times we use traditional kind of performance management system where it talks about only, okay, that what's the number that you need to achieve by so and so, and then how much you've achieved. That's it. It doesn't speak about, okay, what needs to be done, how far I've achieved, what differently I need to do. Let me also tell you that many times the conversation between the managers and the store people is that, okay, yes, you have not achieved this. And then what happens is that the person will keep on trying again and again. And there is a I think quote from, I don't remember who it is, that if you keep on doing the same thing again and again, expecting a different result, then that's actually insane. That's insane. So it's the responsibility of the manager also to look into and see that, okay, how differently things will have to be done. So I think technology also plays an important role here. A lot of elements can be brought in through technology to make this performance management an interesting experience rather than a grinding experience where it is just about looking at numbers and then having a review on that one. So that's my take.
Very exciting, when we look at only the results and do not look at how it was executed, right? It's very important. Your results may come with not even a proper execution or breakage in execution, right? I was talking to a CEO of a company a few days back, and he said there is a team which has achieved its goals or achieved its objectives or maybe the numbers. But when I look at the way they executed to achieve these numbers, it is all fragile. Yeah. They cannot repeat it again. It has to be that the execution has to be made stronger, that you are able to achieve those goals or the results again and again and again. So execution is also so important to understand how these numbers have been achieved.
Absolutely.
Right, and not there. So in my series of questions, what I thought, last question to you both, we are seeing so much of change happening today, right? Every time, every month, markets are expanding, markets are depleting. AI has come into picture, so things are working very, very differently today. Infusing of AI is being greatly influencing our everyday work in any organization or as an individual also. So what do you think as a practical changes in a retail organization should bring immediately to them? So Saurabh, you want to start, and then probably Sreeni sir can put his thoughts there. What immediate steps needs to be taken to achieve these changes?
Immediately, if I have to say that which can bring a real change, and I'll draw upon what Sreeni sir said. See, people are at the heart of everything. If people don't connect to whatever you may plan or do, things are not going to move forward. I would strongly emphasize, and I have seen that work very well, that organizations should immediately start focusing on people well-being, and people well-being is not just paying a salary on time. It is many more layers above it, right? So, and with people well-being, it comes to mental enablement. Otherwise, it's always said that we want to enable our employees. When you don't even share the information, you don't even cascade the critical KPIs, numbers, and facts figures, you are not even mentally enabling them. Then the third thing is that when you drive a performance culture, and I'm sure everyone will agree, every little achievement, every little win must be celebrated, must be acknowledged, because that enables people to feel better that, okay, I did this, it produced this result. Otherwise, in any goal setting exercise, always the core of the discussion is what was supposed to be done and what didn't happen. There is something which has happened. At least acknowledge that. And then the third thing and the fourth thing which I mentioned in my previous discussion is organization should definitely do a mapping of customer's journey touch point. If you are running a retail establishment, whether you are a standalone store or a store in a mall, please map from the main road. If somebody has to come down to your outlet, does he have to take a U-turn? Does he have to cross a red light? How does he enter the parking? Was the entry to the parking good enough, or it was a clumsy experience? Then comes the lift. Was the lift convenient enough for a person to say, okay, I'll carry my wife and kids, or I'll just finish the job by going alone? And then when he or she enters your store, how does the first impression, first 10 steps look like? So every journey touch point has an impact on what you do, how you do things. If you do these four things only on an immediate basis, you will definitely see a huge difference in the way your team shapes up, reacts, and responds, and that in turn will translate to a lot of other actions and results which we have anyways dwelled and deliberated upon.
So the experience of the customer coming to your store.
Experience of both the customer as well as employees.
Employees, right. So right from saying, hey, is this a big U-turn for me to come down 1 kilometer U-turn to come to your store? Or there's no parking around, so people may have not that kind of an experience.
I'll give you a very classic example. Long back when Big Bazaar used to exist, that time I used to be a store manager. This is at least a 20-year-old story. And we were opposite to each other. And one fine day, we found that the Big Bazaar team was proactive enough to convince the authorities to block a U-turn. So the consumers have to go another 1 kilometer ahead to a red light and then take a quick detour to Big Bazaar or take a long U-turn to come back to my place.
Okay.
I mean, we were beating the bush out of everything, that why your footfalls are dropping, why your sales number are not happening, when will you do, and when will you do, and when will you do. One fine day, I decided to take a different route, and I realized, where has that cut gone? only to realize that that was a smart thing which has happened. It was done by the competitor. I mean, so that's why I'm saying the how, what consumer journey touch point matters a lot.
That's great. Sreeni sir, over to you.
Yeah. So you're talking about the changes that would like to bring in the retail organization to
So some immediate changes that they should look at in your
Yeah.
Right.
So to me, many a times, whenever we speak about performance management, many a times what happens is the discussion is going to be revolving around the framework. Discussion is going to be revolving around the processes, the practices. But to me, we need to revisit the fundamentals. We need to revisit the basics. Many a times the concern is not with the framework. Many a times the concern is not with the processes. The concern is, as we discussed earlier, the concern is more towards the experience that we create with the people when it comes to performance management, the kind of culture, the performance culture that we create. And manager plays a very, very critical role when it comes to building that performance culture. So to me, if a retail business wants to improve execution tomorrow, the starting point is not a new system. It is about building that culture. It is building that experience to build that clarity and cadence. So that's the most important. So first, bring absolute clarity to the daily priorities. Every store, every shift, every individual should know what are the 2-3 things that matter most today. Not the 10 metrics, not the numbers, but a few actionable items. Some of the behaviors, some of the actions that I need to take that directly drive results. I think that's the kind of conversation. And second, build a very strong daily execution rhythm. Short morning, many organizations I'm aware that they do short morning hurdles to set direction, midday check-ins to course correct, and end of the day review to capture the learning, and then of course start the day with that learning. So performance should be a daily conversation. It need not be, or it should not be a weekly kind of event. It cannot be a monthly kind of event. That's the kind of culture, and that will definitely create a visible ownership as well. I would like to mention about some of the few psychology concept as well, the psychological concept as well. One that you may probably aware about, a concept called social laughing. So in case if the ownership is not being clearly demarked between people, what happens is that there may not be any kind of ownership. So everyone owns everything. When everyone owns everything, what happens is that the execution may not happen at all. So social laughing is a very, very, very powerful concept that the managers will have to be mindful, and they will have to set this individual responsibility, accountability, so the social laughing will not happen. The another aspect is the dopamine loops. We talk a lot about, Saurabh was also talking about the burnout and the other aspects. So when it comes to those, I think dopamine loops is very, very important. The brain is wired in such a way that to stay engaged when it experiences frequent small wins. Yeah. So as a manager, as a store manager, how can I have these kind of small wins during the day? So that's why breaking monthly targets into daily or hourly goals and celebrating those micro successes keeps that energy very high. The dopamine loops are very, very important. Another very, very important, powerful concept from NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is about reframing. Instead of just leaders can consciously reframe targets as progress markers or winning checkpoints rather than what is left to achieve. So just imagine, these are very simple fundamental elements that the managers will have to be mindful and bring changes in the way how they converse with the team. That will definitely bring a different culture, a different experience. And if that can be supported with maybe some kind of technology to create that kind of interesting experience, I think that will help a lot in redefining the entire performance management system.
Perfect. I think thank you so much, both of you. I think there's a lot of interesting points which has come today. And I'm sure the listeners would have gained a lot of inputs, what can be implemented in their organizations also. And everybody who has joined us, thank you so much for it. You can always connect to Sreeni sir and me on our LinkedIn profiles and ask your questions if they have not been answered today. And thank you so much. I cannot thank you both enough for your time, for sharing your experiences out to us. And I have gained a lot of insights today, to be honest, which I would like to pen down myself and keep it in my diary of what I have learned. So thank you, Saurabh. Thank you, Sreeni. And thank you, team,
thank
for
you so much, Navjit, for being one of the speakers and then joining along with a seasoned business leader like Saurabh. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to interact on a very, very interesting topic. I would like to share my closing comments. If I were to bring all these discussions, whatever that we discuss, I think performance management is often misunderstood as managing numbers, but numbers are not performance, they are outcome of performance. So if we truly want to influence outcomes, I think we have to shift our focus, shift our mindset. What drives them, the people, I think that's what managers will have to give more focus on.
No, I think it's a perfect ending to the 1 hour discussion we had. We will be sharing the links of the recording to our listeners, to everyone who may not have been able to join today, LinkedIn on our post on our LinkedIn. And thank you so much again, Sreeni, Saurabh, for
Thank you so much for bringing us on this platform, and it was interesting to interact on this topic. Thank you.
Absolutely, and we will be inviting you again for some more interesting topics in the future for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, team, job team, for arranging this webinar. Thank you so much. Have a pleasant evening.